Hello and welcome to Topic Tuesday. My name is Brian Westbrook, and I am the founder and executive director of Coalition Life. And we're so excited to host this event this evening. And we've had so many questions that have come in that you guys have requested. And we gathered just a handful of those for this evening to talk about some of these different topics here at Coalition Life, and wanted to address some of these with you this evening. So sit back, relax, and for a few minutes here, we'll just kind of walk through these questions. First and foremost, thank you for submitting these questions, and also thank you for your continued support of our ministry and our opportunity to save lives here. Both in St. Louis, in Fairview Heights, Chicago, Carbondale, and our work in Kansas City as well. So before we do this, let's start with a word of prayer. Lord Jesus, we thank you for this day and for the opportunity to save lives. And we thank you for this technology that we may be able to come live to our audience, to our supporters, to our volunteers, and everyone who makes this work possible. Thank you to my family and friends and our donors, our supporters and volunteers for everything that they have done so that we can save lives through your grace here in the Midwest. Amen. Okay, so without further ado, let's go take a look at our first question here. So first question. Have you always been passionately pro-life as you are now? What do you think is the best argument for the pro-life position? Oh, well, that's two questions here. So have I always been passionately pro-life? I'll tell you what, there's been, I grew up in a good quality Christian home, but it wasn't always, we didn't really talk about abortion. We didn't really talk about it in church. We didn't really talk about it around the dinner table. Not like we do today, of course. But it was when I was invited first to join the so-called pro-life committee, right? There up in St. Ferdinand Church up in North County. I was inspired by all of the efforts that they were putting in, and was inspired to eventually one day go out to the abortion facility and watch as a young lady left that abortion facility in St. Louis, Missouri in tears. And so was I always pro-life? In a sense, we were a pro-life family, but were we actively doing anything? No, we were in fact likely pro-life in name only, but not in our actions. And so, that's frankly a lot of the public out there is very similar to this. And so events like this, as we talk about the horrors of abortion, I think it's really important. But then also on the other side, all the amazing things that the 3,000 some odd pregnancy centers are doing all around the country, sidewalk counseling groups all around the country who are doing this work on the ground. I think it's really important for us to continue to share that message around the country because, right now today, there's so many pro-abortion politicians and pro-abortion groups saying that there's no other options, that this is the only thing is abortion for these women in crisis. And that's not the case. That's not the case at all. So we are here to proclaim that there is an opportunity for these women who are looking for alternatives. So it was a slow process for me and for my wife and for our entire family. But here we are. Quit my job in 2011, and we'll never look back. It was a great opportunity. Question, I don't have a thing for it, but what do you think is the best argument for the pro-life position? I think I just talked about that. The argument is that we do genuinely love and care for these women. And I think it's about our actions versus simply our words. And so I think if you really look at so beyond our actions of actually supporting these women, the best argument is going to go to the SLED test, the size, level of development, environment, or dependency. Any pro-life argument can be made using the SLED test. Stephanie Gray Connors uses this along with a number of other pro-life apologists. And I think it's really important to look that up. The SLED test is really important as we look at different opportunities. What is your favorite activity to do with your family? That's an interesting question. My family, God love them, we're so blessed to do this work every single day. I have 7 beautiful children. My oldest is 15, and my youngest is now 5 months. She'll be 6 months here in the new year. And, as far as activities of the family, the 9 of us, anywhere we go, we get noticed. And it's hard to ignore a big, huge white van with a bunch of kids, rolling out of it. I think one of the things my older children really like to do, and I think this is an interesting thing, is that they love serving at Mass. They love to do performances at home. Just over Christmas, one of the gifts that our children gave us is a performance that they did, a ballet performance. And then one of my children played piano, and one of them was a choreographer. Behind us, those little elementary school plays there's always a choreographer behind us. So that is, we're always doing work both in the pro-life movement, but also a lot of in the homeschooling network as well. So let's go to the next question, and this comes from Brandon. I would like to know, what were your top 3 sources of support in the beginning and the top 3 sources of support now? It's really, really interesting. It's exactly the same. When we started 40 Days for Life, brought that to St. Louis. Our supporters were just people like you and me, people with families, people who go to church on a regular basis. And those individuals came out for 2.5 years and volunteered, holding signs, saying prayers, and thousands upon thousands of hours of people coming out and joining us in prayer. And it was exactly those same people who decided to fund our launch back in 2011. And it's exactly those same type of people who fund us today. And so, God willing, at the end of this year, we will have raised about $2 million, assuming that we hit our $2 million mark, our end of year appeal campaign. Last year, we raised about $1.7 million, and this was from people just like you and me. We have thousands of donors, and many of them are giving $30, $40, $50 a month, and just giving what they can to make this a reality for us. And we have a handful of people who will give in the tens of thousands of dollars, but really who makes this happen on the ground is all of us, just like us, making this happen, giving our part and doing our part. So no, there's not some big, mega outside source. It is always has been and always will be people just like you and me making this happen. What was your best moment on the sidewalk? So the best moment on the sidewalk, oh my, I didn't quite prepare for this one. I would say it was probably, I think it was my 3rd week out on the sidewalk after 2011 when we launched the ministry. And it was a day that we were able to send the pregnancy center 9 clients, or 9 turnarounds in one day. It was a very, very busy day. And unfortunately, in St. Louis, there were quite a few times when the parking lot was completely packed with cars, and they were parking all around the street corners. And what happened is a bit of a stroke of luck, is that they had overbooked their day. And so I was having an opportunity to talk with clients as they were walking in, talk with clients that were walking out of the abortion facility, frustrated that they weren't able to, quote unquote, get the services that they came for. And so that was a really, really tough day, 10 straight hours of being out on the sidewalk back in 2011. And we had a really, really great day, and was able to send the pregnancy center 9 clients on that day, or 9 turnarounds. So that was a great day. I remember that day vividly. And it was myself and a gal, her name was Deanna Sutherland, who was there, who gave me a lunch break that day. So our team continues to work hard every single day to make that happen. All right, so how can we be more effective? How can we more effectively encourage young evangelicals to participate in the pro-life movement? Okay, so what I actually find is this has much more to do about geographic regions and geographic places around the country, and it has a little to do with whether they're evangelicals or Lutherans or Catholics or conservative, liberal, or anywhere in between. It actually has much to do with who's actually running the event, who is actually making the initiative possible. So, for instance, there are pregnancy centers that are started by evangelicals, or pregnancy centers started by Lutherans or Catholics, or anywhere in between. And we find is that the founder of said organization drives a lot of that participation, along with who is the board of directors and who makes up the board of directors. For instance, our staff, we have 43 people on our staff with a variety of different backgrounds, including our board of directors as well has a variety of different backgrounds. So I think what's really important is that if you would like more evangelicals involved, you get one. You get one evangelical involved, and you get a second and a third, and because they bring people with them who also share the same values that you and I share. And so I think it's really important that we bring those people. If you want a certain group of people, you invite one of them, and then you invite them to bring their friends and family and everyone else. Now, if we just point to a group and just say, hey, I need those more evangelicals involved, they're never going to come. But I would actually caution us a little bit, because I've heard a lot of times that, well, we just need this group or another group involved in the pro-life movement. And I kind of look at other crisis moments in our history. And if we look at the Holocaust in Germany, and we would never point to the Jews and say that, well, they need to get more involved in helping to end this tragedy. Well, of course we would never do that. And so I think it's really important for us to understand that, some groups are just better positioned to be able to solve this crisis of abortion, instead of just simply pointing at one group or another and saying that, well, they just need to get more involved. And that's really not the point. What we want to do is we want to have everyone involved that we can influence in our sphere of influence. And then as time goes on, you'll get more and more people involved. Okay, so let's see here. Outside your job at Coalition Life, how does your family participate in pro-life work? I've kind of mentioned this earlier, but I think it's kind of interesting is that most of what we do in the pro-life movement has a lot to do with what we do on our day-to-day basis. So when we go to the grocery store, our children are well behaved. When we go to an event, our children are well behaved. When my wife and I go out to an event, we have an opportunity, very rarely, but every once in a while, we will go out to dinner. And when we do, it's about how we present ourselves. It's also how we present ourselves to our waiter or waitress or anyone who serves us. We just need to serve them with a smile. And when we bring our children with us, you have well-behaved children. And this is kind of like the starting point of being in the pro-life movement, is because the woman who's going to get that abortion, she's the same one in the supermarket with you. The woman who's going to get that abortion is the same one watching as your children are either poorly behaved or well behaved. They're watching as your marriage is either falling apart or it's strong. And I think it's really important for us to start at home and start with those important basics. And then we do other things in the pro-life movement. So for instance, my wife and I and our children, we went up to Flossmoor. We spent 12 days in freezing cold weather. I even have photographs of those. I don't have it, right here at the moment. But I think we went to Flossmoor. We spent 12 days in freezing cold weather, and we went back and forth, and the kids helped out. And when it got a little bit warmer, some of the younger kids would come, and we show up. We show up at these events. We show up at the March on the Arch. We show up in Jefferson City. We show up at events, whether they're sponsored by us or sponsored by other groups. But we bring our children to these events and we say, you must stand up for life. And finally, we teach our children what abortion is. Many other parents will ask me, well, hold on a second. Am I supposed to talk about abortion? And is 18 too late to talk about abortion? And I think it's, frankly, we should be talking about abortion from day one. And we shouldn't sway away from these really important topics because, as they start to get older, they just understand that, well, abortion is wrong. Well, why do they know abortion is wrong? Well, abortion takes the life of a little baby. And having these tiny conversations with them and age-appropriate conversations is, I think, the first and foremost thing that we need to do as pro-life parents and as pro-life citizens, is to have these basic conversations with individuals and also with those around us every single day. All right. Well, that was the Q&A with Brian Westbrook today. Remember, we have our end of year appeal, and I look forward to 2024. We're going to have a lot of things coming out of 2024. And so I encourage you to continue to get involved in the pro-life movement, and we'll see you on the other side.